if you can get a group of really talented people together and unite them around a challenge and have them work together to the best of their abilities, then a company will achieve great things.
Yeah, that's really true. I'm sure you do encounter this all the time because so many people look at you and they say, how is this guy doing all this so effectively? And then so many people turn to themselves and say, well, how come I can't? I mean, or maybe not enough people do. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe being an engineer allows you to sort of see what's possible. Not to mention you had a lot of money. You did, obviously with PayPal you made some serious money that got you started, and that did help, obviously. But it's not just that, clearly, because there's a lot of guys and women with a lot of money who haven't had the will and the vision to push forward the way you have. I mean, back to Tesla for a minute, I think there are a lot of people who think it's possible you could be leading the entire car industry, not just in vision and technology, but in sales at some point down the road if you keep heading the direction you're going. And I talked to some of the big automakers and they are in awe of what you've done, and they're copying you probably in ways that you're happy to see them do.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's something I think all of us is pressed or constantly wrestling with. What makes you tick different? I mean, do you look at other people and say, how come more people don't just try harder?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, actually, it's more like, I think people self-limit more than they realize. Like I can ask this question of like, well, how about innovation? How do you do more innovation? And I think the number one thing is people should just try. I mean, like literally just,
and keep trying.
Like, did you try yesterday?
Right.
Did you try today? But it is quite, I mean, it takes a lot of mental exertion to innovate. And I think it is helpful to learn about different industries and try to cross-pollinate. Because very often people get siloed in a particular industry. And so me running both Tesla and SpaceX has been helpful because I see how both industries work, and I can take things from one to another. So I'll give you a couple examples. One is say that the Model S is an all aluminum body and chassis, and we employ some advanced joining techniques and advanced casting techniques and so forth. So that's like a fairly obvious thing if you're coming from the aerospace industry. You don't see a lot of airplanes made out of steel. But cars are almost all made out of steel. So in order to make the Model S light enough, so to make the non-battery pack portion of the mass light.
So you can get more range.
Yeah, get more range, exactly.
Because range is one of the big things you solve before anybody else.
Right, exactly. I mean, the two big factors for range are what is your aerodynamic drag and how much does the car weigh. Those are overwhelmingly the big factors for range. And so making the car weigh less is really important. And actually not just for range, but also for handling and acceleration. So that was like an obvious thing to make a car out of aluminum. But the Model S is actually the only car made out of aluminum in North America.
It is?
Yeah, in fact, there are very few cars made out of aluminum worldwide, but the only other passenger vehicles are made in Europe, if they're made out of aluminum. So that was like an obvious thing to do. And then on the other side, the car business is very good at manufacturing. It's actually incredible that a car, which is a super complicated object with dozens of subsystems, can actually be bought for the amount of money that it's. Like you can get a pretty good car for $20,000, and so taking the manufacturing techniques that were developed in the automotive industry and applying them to rocketry,
going the other way,
has been really helpful. In fact, our head of production at SpaceX came from the car industry. He used to run production of the Mini for BMW.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, this thing about waking up and saying, why not innovate, is a great sort of way to think. I'm sure we all want to be inspired to do that. But the thing that's so amazing about Tesla in particular is literally 5 years ago today, pretty much, the company was perceived to be on its deathbed, right? I mean, you were struggling, and there was a lot of
some reality to that perception, I think.
There was some reality. So it was really tight.
It was really tight.
It was very, very bad financially there for a moment. And were you still focusing on innovating at that moment?
I think innovating to avoid death. But yeah, I mean,
how did you get out of that? That's the key. What is it that, when you look back at that experience from your point of view, is there anything you think you did right that is what helped that sort of get behind you?
Well, I think I'll tell you sort of where things were in 2008, which was the most difficult time for Tesla, as it was for many companies. So in summer of 2008, we were trying to raise a financing round to take Tesla to the next level, and then the financial markets fell apart, and we weren't able to raise any money at all. Just when we needed money, we weren't able to raise any money. And then you had General Motors and Chrysler that were going bankrupt. So trying to raise money for a startup electric car company in the face of General Motors going bankrupt was a very challenging endeavor. And in fact, we weren't able to raise any outside money. So the only choice I had was to invest all the money that I had left.
Your own money?
Yeah. And in fact, I had to borrow money from friends for living expenses.
Wow.
And so it would have been, if things didn't work out, it would have been negative, essentially. But because I was willing to invest everything that I had, then the other investors in the company were willing to put up the other half of the money that was needed to keep Tesla alive. And then there's a whole bunch of dramas. Skipping a bunch of drama. We were actually able to close the financing round only on the last hour of the last day where it was possible. It was 6 p.m. Christmas Eve, 2008. And it was literally we would have gone bankrupt a few days after Christmas.
But again, even at that moment, I would assume that it was your willingness to make that kind of personal bet was driven by your faith in the technology and the promise of what you were doing, and the confidence in the power of innovation. I mean, is that overstating it?
I think that probably is overstating. Yeah.
What was it?
I thought we were probably done.
You thought you'd probably done.
Yeah.
So you thought, I'm going to give it a shot, but it probably won't work.
Yeah.
Worth $17 billion. You know, 5 years later, he's got a $17 billion company, but that's the kind of guy he is. I mean, really, wow.
It would have been irrational to have any other view.
You seem like you believe in rationality, okay. But I mean, it's interesting, you know.
I should mention, like, some credit is also due to Daimler, because
they were an investor, right?
Well, they became an investor in early 2009. So the Daimler money was crucial to the success of Tesla. Although people often think that it was the U.S. government investment that was the lifesaver for Tesla. It was not. The government loan that we got, we only received that first monies were received in like March of 2010. When we were actually in okay shape. So the government loan was an accelerant, but it was not life or death.
You were already rebounding, right?
Yeah. But the Daimler investment was life or death.
Are they still a good partner?
Yeah, we're coming out with the Mercedes B-Class, which is an all-electric car. It'll be the biggest electric car program in Daimler history. In fact, bigger than the sum of all electric vehicle programs they've done to date. That goes into production, I believe, in March or April.
Now, there's so many things to talk to you about, but one of the other things that's so interesting about Tesla is, there's so much to talk about SpaceX too, but we don't have tons of time, but you're building this, recharging infrastructure. I mean, you're basically building filling stations for the electric future.
Yeah.
Right. Talk quickly about that and how you're doing that quickly. You've already got a lot of them, and you have a plan to build a lot more soon, right?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, we're now opening up a supercharger, I think every 2 or 3 days.
Really?
Yeah.
How many do you have now roughly?
Well, I actually don't have the right up to the minute count, but I think we must be approaching 50 or 60.
Wow.
But
all over the country?
And internationally.
Really? How many other countries are they in?
Well, we've got 80% of the population of Norway covered. This is kind of, Norway is actually our highest per capita sales in the world by far.
Norway?
Yeah. I don't know, Norway's...
The Norwegians are the audience.
Because Norway's so awesome. There's a lot of reasons, but I do find it funny that sometimes people wonder if our car works in the snow, and it's like, yeah, number one sales per capita is in Norway.
It's a snowy place, yes.
Exactly. Our number one customer lives above the Arctic Circle.
What, somebody who's bought 10 Teslas?
I think he's now on 12 or something.
Really? You want more of those?
Yeah.
Of course, you only can't get as many as you want, given that you have such a backlog, right?
Well,
he gets extra.
Yeah. Well, we give him priority because he's awesome.